Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. Today's our esteemed guest is Dr. Sohail Ahmed, Senior Scientist, ICAR, IGFRI, Regional Research Station, Srinagar. He is going to throw light on fruit-based agroforestry system, a case study of hortipastoral system. Sir, please continue.
Thank you very much. I think most of the participants might have joined by this time. Actually, one of our resource persons who was scheduled to deliver a talk on agroforestry systems, giving a general overview of what is happening in the world of agroforestry at the national level. He had some very personal issue, I think some health issue in his family, so he was not able to deliver a talk this time. So I have taken the responsibility. My talk was scheduled on some other day, so in that case, it hardly matters. Uh, so we already had introduction of agroforestry, what agroforestry is, what is its relationship with environment, its relationship with respect to livelihood diversification and livelihood security of farmers. We already had a very good inaugural session day before yesterday. So now I will be talking about fruit-based agroforestry systems. As you might have observed in the inaugural session, the the comments from our guest of honor, Dr. M.K. Verma ji, he was the director. He is the director of Central Institute of Temperate Horticulture. He mentioned that there is paucity of research and extension so far as fruit-based agroforestry systems in the country are concerned. The reason being that most of the horticultural institutes, they are primarily working on fruit crops. Any fruit tree, you take the example of mango, apple, apricot, peach, guava, amla. So their prime focus or their main focus or emphasis is on developing varieties, developing root stocks, developing package and practices of these particular fruit crops. So very often the associated crops, that is the crops which have to be grown in the interspaces of the fruit trees, they get less attention in so far as our ICR institutes are concerned. That's the reason that we have less research and extension in fruit-based agroforestry systems. And in fruit-based agroforestry systems, there are innumerable examples, especially in our Punjab and Haryana region or in our peninsular India, even in Western India, even in Northeast. You might have heard about home gardens of Kerala. Then uh, tea plantations. There is an association of tea, for example, in with multi-purpose trees and shrubs. Then coffee plantation. Then plantation crops. Obviously, they are also a very good agroforestry system. Then coconut is a plantation crop, so coconut-based agroforestry systems. And one general principle when we talk of fruit-based agroforestry systems is that whenever we go for growing or raising of any fruit crop, lot of interspaces are left as such. For example, there are two types of alleyways when we talk of agroforestry systems, woody perennial based agroforestry systems. There is tree row, there is alleyway. Alleyway, primary, for example, if you take the example of, for example, in Punjab and Haryana, you might have seen poplar based agroforestry systems where poplar is grown in the rows and in between the interspaces some agricultural crops like wheat are grown. And if we take example of Himalayan region where so many temperate fruits are grown, so if there are tree rows, fruit tree rows, and there is the interspace wherein certain agricultural crops are raised. For example, if I give the example of Kashmir Valley, so many vegetable crops, so many crops, for example, garlic and onion, are raised in between the interspaces of apple trees. So that is one case. But there has been less focus so far as hortipastoral systems are concerned. What is a hortipastoral system? We'll be speaking in detail about these hortipastoral systems in the succeeding slides. So this was just giving you the brief overview why this talk is important and what's its narrative and what topics are to be discussed in this particular topic. And you might have seen that just a few yes in the inaugural session also, one of our speakers, Dr. Sajad Ahmad Gangu Sahab, he spoke about the nomenclature of agroforestry systems or the nomenclature of agricultural systems per se. For example, we might have seen the terms like sustainable agriculture, organic agriculture, conventional agriculture. Now the topic of say for example conservation agriculture is making headlines. Similarly, the topic of regenerative agricultural system is getting a lot of attention nowadays. And if we take the example of hortipastoral systems, this is a very important system, and it is having a vital role in preserving natural resources while transforming other sectors which are equally important, for example, livestock sector. This is the presentation outline. I have already given a detailed introduction. Then we will be talking about various trade-offs and synergies between horticulture and livestock sectors. Then we will be coming with the definition of hortipasture system, what this system exactly is, and what is its relationship with various ecosystem services, and what are the constraints so far as this particular system is concerned, what are the future prospects, and then finally I will be concluding my talk. If we You might have I mean the people who are from forestry background or agroforestry background, they might be very well aware about the what is known as complementarity. There are three types of interactions. One is competitive interaction, supplementary interaction, and complementary interaction. And we as agroforesters, we advocate that if we have to completely eradicate the competitive interactions, and uh, if the target is to have complementary interactions where both the components are equally benefited. For example, if two enterprises, say for example horticulture and livestock sector, are brought together, so both the enterprises should get benefited, because this is the interaction between various components and various abiotic and abiotic environments that aims to increase overall productivity and efficiency of the land use system, and also it makes a particular system sustainable. And if we talk about what is a sustainable system, and it should be over the long period of time, it should enhance environmental quality. We also had a talk of the ill effects of, say for example, green revolution in India. So a sustainable system should enhance environmental quality and the resource base on which the entire agriculture, the entire crops, the entire woody perennials depend. They should provide for basic human food and fiber needs. It should be economically viable, and it should enhance the quality of life. We had a lecture on this health concept, that this ecosystem health is important, ecological health is important rather than physical or spiritual well-being. So this ecological well-being should be part of the one health concept. So it should improve the overall quality of life, not only of the farmers but of the society as a whole. Dr. Biradar threw a lot of light on this concept yesterday, day before yesterday, in his talk. So, the general strategies for designing sustainable agricultural systems include, this is the theme of our summer school, that diversification of plant species, because we know that diversification is very important. Monocropping or monoculture has lessened the diversity of various flora and fauna, but diversification of plant species is very important because there will be bioresource flow from biological and economic for biological and economic stability. Then use of plants and animals that are well suited to farm soil and climate. Then there will be preference of farm generated resources over purchased goods. See, for example, if we are using legumes in our system, so there will be nitrogen fixation in the soil. So our dependence on urea, which is a nitrogenous fertilizer, will be definitely decreased. And that is the goal of the government also, to decrease the use of nitrogen fertilizers. Then tightening of nutrient cycles, which is very important, as you might be knowing that in forest systems we have a closed kind of a nutrient cycle. But if we talk of agricultural systems, we have open agricultural systems. But if we talk of agroforestry systems, we have intermediate type of nutrient cycling. It is somewhere between, it's neither closed, completely closed, nor it is completely open. So it's an integrated or an intermediate approach, trade-off, or we can say, uh, in so far as nutrient cycling is concerned. Then there will be definitely the livestock, which are integral part of this particular system. So maintaining or managing livestock at low densities, what should be the herd size, which has to be appropriately scaled to farm size, the carrying capacity of a particular farm at be at local or global or landscape level. Then obviously I was talking about regenerative agricultural systems, or our conservation agriculture, where main focus is on soil conservation and improvement practices. Because our director in the inaugural remarks, he mentioned about that this decade from 2021 to 2030 is the decade of ecosystem restoration. So for that, soil is the central focal point. So we have to use cover crops, we have to use living mulch. Then rotations, which are part of the conservation agriculture, they should include deep rooted plants. We should have a set of deep rooted as well as shallow rooted plants to utilize nutrients from different soil layers. For example, shallow rooted species will be using nutrients from upper layers of soil, and deep rooted plants will be utilizing nutrients from deeper layers of the soil profile, minimizing the competition for nutrients altogether. So, weed, pest, and disease management is also an issue. So, enhancement of conditions for controlling weeds, pests, because if we use living mulch, if we use cover crops, they also help in weed control. They also help in pest, breaking the pest and disease cycles, thereby helping in biological control of pests and diseases. So the use of livestock manure or legumes to replenish nutrient losses, and this has already been dealt. Then of an overall net positive effect on the environment. That's very important, and that is the central and focal point of our uh, summer school and of the sustainable system, any sustainable system. If we talk of these integrated systems, which agroforestry is an integrated system, it offers several ecological and socio-economic benefits because we integrate livestock with crops and trees. It helps in realizing various sustainable development goals also. It helps in soil and water conservation. Nutrient cycling, I already detailed about it. Then one is mitigation and adaptation to climate change. It helps in the adoption of mitigation of climate change. It helps in carbon sequestration. It helps in reducing gaseous emissions. It ensures human well-being, health benefits, farm income is increased. So when farm income will be increased, health benefits will be there. There will be less hunger. So poverty will be alleviated, which is a focal point, which is one of the sustainable development goals. And a particular land use system will be a sustainable one, and it will ensure food and nutritional security. Food and nutritional security not only for the humans, whose population has been increasing, ever increasing, but also nutritional and fodder security of the livestock, because if we see there is scarcity of fodder as well. I will be coming with respect to that point later on. And now if I just give you the principles of regenerative agricultural system, there are five principles. One is we have to keep our soils covered, which is done by using living mulch and cover crops. Then there has to be minimum soil disturbance, which is a main principle of conservation agriculture also, that we should resort to zero tillage or tillage, avoiding conventional tillage, because that is having so many ill effects. Um, then it should maximize crop diversity. It should lead to diversification of crops. It should increase biodiversity in a given system. Then integration of livestock should be there, because of so that there will be bioresource flow, and there will be augmentation of income. Then maintaining a living root year round in a particular system. That's what we mean by using certain crops as living mulch, because they will have living root year round. There will be root activity, there will be activity in the rhizosphere part of the soil. So soil health will be increased, there will be increased micro biological activity. So these are the principles of regenerative agriculture. And now in the forthcoming slides, we will be dealing with how our system, that is hortipastoral system, helps in these adopts all these principles, and helps us in keeping the soil covered, in minimizing the soil disturbance, in maximizing the crop diversity, in integration of livestock, in maintaining living root year round. Now, if I come to, because when we bring two systems together, we have to have some compromise, we have to have some synergies between the two sectors. And this is for the information of all of you, that both these sectors are known as sunrise sectors, be it horticulture or be it livestock sector. And both the sectors are having a set of challenges that are hampering the productivity of, say, for example, fruit crops, or livestock productivity. Will be I have a slide on this, that what are the challenges that are in horticulture sector, and what are the various challenges that are in livestock sector, and how our system helps in addressing those challenges. Then, if we come to synergies, both these sectors, be it horticulture or livestock sector, they are considered to be the most ideal strategies to provide food, nutrition, and income security to the people. This is beyond doubt. Then, if we see the management of fruit orchards, it should involve both the management of the orchard trees as well as the orchard floor, that is the soil. So orchard floor management, it is having its implications on overall tree health, yield, and fruit quality. And if you go through the literature, the standard management practices, they include maintaining a vegetation-free tree row. That means, and a grass-covered alleyway. This particular system is known as Swiss sandwich system. If you see the second photograph, the below photograph, this is a system where sod culture. This is a high density plantation of apple. You will see that on either side of the tree row there is tillage, so it is kept weed free, and the interspace area, which is roughly about 2 meters wide, 2 meter wide, it is having some crops, be it any crop. Generally we advocate in hortipastoral systems that it should be a mix of perennial legumes and grasses. So this particular system is known as Swiss sandwich system, in which a vegetation free tree row is maintained, and the rest of the area is covered with grasses and legumes. And this system has been very effective in controlling weeds, and it creates a very favorable environment for the fruit trees as well, which is we got mm, to know about complementary interactions. So this is a case of complementary interaction, where both the intercrops, grasses and legumes, as well as our main crop, that is the fruit crop, they get benefited. And if we talk of livestock sector, this sector is also very important. Especially, we need adequate availability of quality fodder for enhancing livestock productivity, because our livestock productivity is very low, and livestock wealth is more equitably distributed if we compare it with another factor of production, that's land. It is an insurance against frequent crop failures, because there are certain areas where we have frequent crop failures. For example, in Maharashtra region, where farm suicides are very common. And if I give the example of our two states, that's Maharashtra and Rajasthan, which are having almost same agroclimatic conditions, but we have more farmer suicides in Maharashtra than in Rajasthan. The reason being frequent crop failures in Maharashtra region, and in, for example, if I take the example of Rajasthan, there is more livestock integration in the system. So they give them the insurance against these frequent crop failures. So we have less number of suicides in Rajasthan state. And being an important source of income and employment for especially for weaker sections of the society. So many tribal societies, so many pastoralists are dependent on livestock. So many communities, like more than 50 distinct communities, whose population is roughly 15 to 20 million in India, they depend on livestock directly. And this livestock is helps in alleviating poverty and smoothing of income distribution. So for them, for these pastoralists, these livestock are mobile banks. They are just like mobile banks or ATMs for them. Livestock is important both as savings and investment for the poor household and provides security of insurance. Then, so we can conclude that in view of the rich interaction between crop and livestock, it's being increasingly realized that integrating livestock in a system approach, it would arrest the sustainability concerns. We will be having a sustainable system, which are the keys to countries' food security as well as fodder security, and which these systems also help us in realizing various sustainable development goals. And if we see the example of what are the options available with us if we go for such a system, the area under the area of our country is 328 million hectares. It's not going to increase, it's not going to decrease. We have limited land endowments. For example, most of the area has been occupied by, say, for example, the crops like wheat and rice, which are very important so far as our food security is concerned. Then there are certain commercial crops, sugarcane, cotton, etc. They farmers have preference for these commercial crops. So we have limited land endowments, and it makes it very difficult for a particular farmer to earmark adequate land for fodder cultivation, because fodder crops are considered as orphan crops. There is not much focus on fodder crops. They are not considered to be of the same value as that of commercial crops. So there will be less liking for this. So farmers don't earmark adequate land for this. So we have to look for some other options. And these agroforestry systems or fruit orchards, they at least offer us a very important niche area, so that we can um make use of these lands for augmentation of fodder. So you all know that if you see the livestock census report, there has been an burgeoning increase in the livestock population and human population. So there is more pressure on our grazing lands and pastures, and our grazing lands and pastures have also uh, decreased their area because of encroachment, because of development projects, because of tourism. So, and one more thing here, at the same time, all this is happening, and at the same time, livestock production also has to deal with increased competition between human food and animal feed. and there is greater demand for animal products, not only globally but in our country also. And the resulting environmental impacts, as human populations have increased, and there has been a consumption pattern shift in consumption pattern. If you see the diet which we were taking, say for example 10 or 15 years back, now it has completely changed. There is the dietary preference has changed, so there is increased demand of animal products. Also there is increased demand of fruits and vegetables. So the possibility of increased forage production by bringing additional area under fodder cultivation, they are limited. So it is imperative, it's very important for us that continuous efforts are made to augment forage resource availability through alternate land use systems, like for example agroforestry systems. So this I already gave you about what is the contribution of livestock sector to the total agricultural output, and what is the population of livestock in our country. Then it represents around a third of agricultural GDP in most of the countries. And if I quote the example of our country, it also contributes roughly about more than 20, between the range of 25 to 30% to our agricultural GDP at the national level. And in Himalayan states and in some states, the contribution is even more. It's up to the tune of 40%. And in the past 3 decades, the production and consumption of livestock products in developing countries has grown by 3 to 5%. And by the projections have been made for 2050, the total meat as well as milk consumption in developing countries is expected to at least double. So these trends, they present both opportunities and challenges for integrating livestock in horticulture, in agriculture, or in agroforestry systems. If you see this graph, this is giving us the, for example, several global commodities in the world. If you see that eggs have displaced maize. For example, it comes in the livestock sector. Poultry comes in the livestock sector. It's one of the categories mentioned in the livestock sector. So, and milk has overtaken rice if we compare it with at the global scale. So, you can see the demand of uh, livestock products globally. Now, coming to what's hampering the livestock sector, what are the challenges that are that this sector is facing? This sector is facing four types of challenges. One is feed and fodder deficiency. Another is breeding and reproduction. Another is diseases and management options. How we manage our livestock in, say, for example, dairying or in sheep husbandry or goatry. If we see the contribution of various factors, the feed and fodder deficiency accounts for 50%, and in some cases it goes beyond 60%, even in beyond 70%. So we have to we have to feed quality nutritious fodder to our livestock. And if we are number one in milk production, that's a very good thing. But the average yield of milk and meat in our country is 20 to 60% lower than world average. So this is a very important challenge that we are facing. Then if we compare with the low productivity of fruits, for example, if I gave the example of fruit orchards, the average productivity of fruits is lower. In apple, for example, it is only 11.43 metric tons per hectare. But if we compare it with other countries, it is more than 40 metric tons in case of developed nations. In almond, for example, it's 0.73 tons per hectare in Jammu and Kashmir, which is a major almond producing country state in India. The national level is even less. It's only 0.51 tons per hectare, but the world average is 1.15 tons per hectare. And same is the case with other fruit crops, maybe in tropical or subtropical regions of our country. And the responsible factors, the challenging factors are we have old senile orchards. There is preponderance of diseases and pests. Root stocks, we need new cultivars, which are very high producing cultivars. Pollination management is an issue. And one of the factors which I want to highlight here, in case of the challenge which come in the fruit sector, is the poor orchard floor management practices. Please keep this thing in mind. Poor orchard floor management practices and low and less quality of fodder available to the livestock so far as livestock sector is concerned. So by hortipastoral systems or by integrating livestock in forage based agroforestry systems, we wish to address these two particular challenges. One challenge is poor orchard floor management practices that's prevalent in our fruit orchards, and second one, we have fodder scarcity that we want to address so far as hortipastoral systems are concerned. See, for example, if you see these two pictures, these pictures, these are of, this is the high density orchard of apple, second photograph. First photograph is the uh, pear orchard, and both the orchards you will be seeing lot of weeds have come up in these two systems. And in India, yield loss due to weeds is approximately 33% of the total production. And on an average, 30% of the total production cost is spent on tillage operations. So if we, for example, want to reduce our production cost, we have to go for minimum tillage or zero tillage, which is the principle of regenerative agriculture. And if we want to control the weeds, we have to go for cover cropping. We have to go for interculture of perennial grasses and legumes, which will increase biodiversity, which will have which will act as cover crops and living mulch in a particular system. So again, they will be using the principles of regenerative agricultural system. So efficient weed control becomes all the very important and essential for profitable fruit production. These are again two photographs of almond orchards. You might be seeing this is the white flowered is Anthemis cordula, which is a very weed in temperate areas, and Hypericum perforatum and other Tragopogon WS and other weeds coming up in the orchards, which are also hampering the fruit trees. Now, see this photograph, how beautiful this photograph is, how neat and clean our orchard system looks. This is a high density plantation of apple, and below is the conventional orchard of apple. You can see how beautifully a farmer has managed this particular orchard, where there is grass covered alleyway, and the basin area, the area around the uh, stem has been resorted to tilling. And in the first photograph, garlic is being grown on either side of the tree alleyway, and grass sod culture is in the interspace, roughly about 1.5 to 2 meter wide. So this system definitely helps in uh, reducing the weed growth in a particular orchard. They also help in giving us more fodder, augmentation of fodder is done, and also diversification of various produce. For example, in the first photograph, we will get garlic, we will get apple, we will get fodder for livestock in this particular system. Now, coming to, say, for example, hortipastoral systems. If you see the case of fruit orchards in our country, more than 3 lakh hectares is under fruit crops, under the various kinds of fruit crops. And if I give the example of, say, for example, Jammu and Kashmir or Himachal Pradesh, we also have a lot of area, 355,000 hectares under fruit crops. And there exists a lot of scope in introduction of fodder crops as intercrop in orchards. This particular setup has by and large remained untapped for fodder development, and it has been considered to be a very sustainable land use system, and it's a very important also, for example, so for food and nutritional security is concerned. This basically, these photographs are various combinations of grasses and legumes that we had one project on this particular setup. You might be seeing that white clover, red clover, some certain species of grasses are grown in this particular system. So you might be seeing that overall diversity is enhanced. See, for example, why when we developed this particular system, hortipasture system, in which we raised apple crop as the main crop, fruit tree, then certain grasses which are perennial in nature, Dactylis glomerata and Lolium multiflorum and perenne, uh, in combination with red and white clover, which are both legumes. So what we advocate is that in 50 is to 50 proportion, grasses and legumes should be intercultured with fruit trees. And this particular technology is suitable for temperate areas. It gives us the fruit yield of 15 to 20 tons per hectare, forage 10 to 11 tons per hectare, and 5 to 6.5 adult cattle units can be sustained on this particular system. So a farmer can have 15 to 20 sheep raised on this particular system, and the benefit cost ratio is roughly 4.9. So it's a very remunerative system, and we can have 40% of the forage can be used as green fodder, 3.29 tons, which will be available from, say, for example, April to September. Then from December to June, we can conserve the surplus fodder in the form of hay, in the form of silage, which will be 4.6 tons or 60% of the total production. Now, in temperate climate, in northwestern Himalayan region, for example, we have different zones. We have temperate zone, we have intermediate zone, we have subtropical zone, and cold arid zone. Four agroclimatic zones are there. So we have certain food crops that can be grown in these agroclimatic zones. Then this table gives us the list of various forage grasses and various forage legumes that can be grown in fruit orchards in these particular agroclimatic zones. Then, I was talking about what is the effect of these grasses and legumes on soil physico biochemical properties, especially soil fertility. For example, organic carbon or organic matter, which is the um, indication of soil fertility. If you see, we had several treatments, 17 treatments in this particular experiment. And if you see you can see that we had reasonably very well figures, very well values of organic carbon in legume intercultured system, and very good values, plausible values in grass and legume based systems. So, what we can infer from this table is that organic matter content is increased by 30 to 35%. So, it also helps in sequestration of excess carbon or the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So, this system is very important so far as mitigation of climate change is concerned. Then I also had a slide on what is the effect of weeds on, say, for example, the orchard system or the fruit trees. There are yield losses. And if we go for this particular system where these cover crops, forage cover crops are used in fruit orchards, we can have increased weed control efficiency. We can have reduced weed density in when grasses and legumes are intercultured with fruit trees. Then, if I give the gist of what are the various ecosystem services that accrue from these hortipastoral systems, you might be well aware about that the ecosystem framework uh, distinct categorizes the various services from any system into four categories. One is provisioning services, one is regulating services, supporting services, and cultural services. That means what are the various tangible and intangible benefits that accrue from a particular system? What are the various direct and indirect benefits that come out of a particular system? So this categorizes them in the form of these four categories. And we get diversified output in this in the form of increased fruit availability, fodder availability, livestock products, Fuel wood also we get from this system. We get biochar, we get genetic resources. So these all are provisioning services from a particular system. Then certain regulating services, they break pest and disease cycles, they help in mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions, they help in pollination, because if we are using legumes which are having very bright colored flowers, they will attract pollinators. So overall pollination regime का भी उस पे इफेक्ट होगा. Then increased water quality, there will be less erosion of soil, because these grasses and legumes, they bind the soil, so there will be less erosion. When there will be less erosion, so less runoff will be there, so less soil particles will move to the water bodies, so there will be less siltation, so there will be increased water quality. So this is a regulating service of this particular system. Then I already told you about that this is an intermediate type of a nutrient cycling. The For example, fruit trees, their roots are very deep rooted. They help in extracting nutrients from deeper soil layers, while as these grasses and legumes, they have their roots on the surface layers, so they use surface nutrients. So there will be no competition. There will be efficient nutrient cycling. There will be biological nitrogen fixation if we use legumes in a particular system. There will be weed suppression. Weeds will be less in this system. So these are supporting services from a particular system. And besides all these three services, we can have cultural services. These can be used if we go in the orchard, a very well managed orchard. This gives us some sort of spiritual essence. So as values. So this is important with respect to that as well. And they all also important so far as knowledge based system or education and aspiration, social prestige, etc. Now, if I have again given this slide, now you might be very well mm, focused on this particular slide. I need your focus that these perennial, since legumes are perennial in nature, they are perennial in nature, so they help in covering the soil for long periods. They also, because these are perennial in nature, so we have to go for sowing of or planting of these grasses only once. If we go for annual crops, you have every year. But if you are growing perennial grasses, you have to uh, sow them only once, and they will go on giving you fodder uh, beyond 15 years, up to 15 to 20 years. So there will be minimum soil disturbance in a particular system. It will help in maximizing crop diversity, because you are incorporating legumes, you are incorporating livestock, you are incorporating grasses in the system. So they also help as living mulch, because their roots will be increased root activity will be there. So increased addition of organic matter to the soil will be there, and integration of livestock becomes very easy. As I already mentioned, that 5 to 6.5 adult cattle units can be supported from this particular system, which will also help in integrating livestock, be it sheep or goatry or cattle in the system. But now, what are the constraints and challenges so far as this particular system is concerned? There is obviously lack of awareness among the different stakeholders about the various short and long term benefits of these systems, not only among the farmers but also among various other stakeholders, because there has been less research and extension on use of forage crops, especially perennial ones as cover crops or as living mulch. So we need to have more focused extension so far as this particular constraint is concerned. Then obviously, if we go for using grasses and legumes, seed availability is an issue, quality planting material is an issue. So we need quality planting material, we need increased quality seed production if we have to spread this technology to large areas. And as of now, less seed is available in the market. So hortipastures, since I already mentioned that these are highly productive, but are little bit too complex to design and manage because of the dynamics of three-way interactions. Because we have trees, we have fruit trees, we have forage crops, and we have animals. So it creates a three-way interface. So managing and designing such an interface sometimes becomes a little bit difficult. But since a lot of research, or we our institute has done a lot of research on hortipastures, so we can also deal with this complexity. Then there is a need of increased research, capacity building, and extension. And although we have national agroforestry policy of agroforestry in our country, which was promulgated in 2014, and yesterday I also mentioned about greening and restoration of uh, wastelands through agroforestry, which was a report released in February this year by Niti Aayog. So that also gives us comprehensive guidelines. But we need a national authority, or a state level authority which can implement such schemes and missions or such technologies, inviting all the stakeholders, taking all the stakeholders on board. Then future thrust should be, we should be designing suitable hortipasture systems for different land use types, climatic regions. There is a need of focused research in this respect. Then we need to identify pasture species, especially grasses and legumes. They have to be identified for increased forage resource enhancement. Then we should be able to develop guidelines for managing animals. Then we have to keep in mind various pathological and entomological considerations, how and when to spray if we have to manage, or if we have to design such a system. So a complete set of guidelines have to be framed for managing animals, for managing forage crops, fruit tree crops. It will definitely require greater knowledge regarding the three-way interactions that are happening in this particular system. I think that's all from my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention. In case there are certain questions, I will be happy to answer. Hamida ma'am, I have finished my talk.
Sir, okay, sir. Is there any question from any participant? You can ask, sir, questions.
You can have your clarifications in the chat box, or you
You
can
can.
anytime interact with me.
Yeah, yeah, you can.
Whenever you want to interact, I am here with you throughout all this summer school. I hope I have done justice with this topic and covered all the aspects. And I hope it will be very fruitful for all the participants. Thank you, one and all, for joining. We have another lecture at 2:30. Yes, yes, yes. Please, Patel sir, please go on.